We're back sooner than I thought. Breaking news, shocking news, really, on Thursday morning. The Pohlad family announcing that after 40 years of owning the Twins, they are going to pursue a sale of the team. No one better than Velle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune to talk about that news. Of course, covered the Twins for multiple, about 2 decades before becoming a columnist here at the Star Tribune. Velle, how are you, and how are you reacting to this kind of bombshell breaking news on Thursday?
This is indeed a true bombshell. No one saw this coming. It looked like the Twins were set up to be under Pohlad family control for another 30 years, with Joe Pohlad taking over the executive chair a couple years ago. For something like this to happen is totally stunning and unexpected, and it should raise eyebrows across the league. Because about some of the families who've had long tenures owning teams. You hear about the Steinbrenners right at the top of the bat, and the Pohlads are right up there with them. So I'm sure this is surprising a lot of owners in baseball as well. Other than that, you have like the Illiches who've owned the Detroit Tigers for many years. And there's a couple other teams that have been family owned for a long time, but really not as long as the Twins. And you think about the history of this franchise, only 2 families have owned this team since like 1920, and that's the Griffith family and the Pohlad family. That's incredible stability.
In the news release, Joe Pohlad, executive chair right now, said this is something they decided this summer. It's interesting to me because, roughly coincides with a little bit of the down, the rough end to the season for this team, things like that. I'm sure that didn't necessarily play a role, but how are they able to keep this a secret so long? And timing wise, how do you kind of determine how this all came about?
Or in any situation, the Twins have been really good about being discreet and working behind the scenes. This doesn't surprise me that they were having these conversations, because when you have a family, you can keep things within the family. And then I'm sure that Jim and Joe and Bob and Bill have all been, talking about this. I'm surprised that it's been under consideration. I'm just speculating here. I don't have any inside information, inside dope on this, but I wonder if they got to the point last year where they had the playoff run, they won a series, and it was time to push forward and push harder on this roster to make it better. They looked at their numbers and said, we can't do it. And maybe they've reached a conclusion that they can't give the fans what they want. And they're going to try to let someone else do it. So, but that's just speculation on my part. But I don't know what's going on with their other businesses. I don't know if it's something where they need to move on from the team so they can help their other holdings. The Twins have allowed the Pohlads to grow an empire. They have their hands on many, many businesses. They just built a tower downtown Minneapolis. They've invested in so many different things. That tonal exercise machine that LeBron James does commercials for, the Pohlads own part of that company.
Oh, wow.
So they've diversified their portfolio, which I think was because of the baseball ownership. And maybe they decided that they've maxed out on what they could do with the team and want to move somewhere else.
Well, I mean, franchise valuations just keep soaring. They bought the team for less than $100 million back in the day, right? Like, was it
4? I think it was 44.
Yeah, 34 million, 44 million, something like that.
Yeah.
They arrived not long after the Metrodome opened. We're here for the building of Target Field. Reading what they could get for it now sounds like about $1.5 billion. Even with regional sports challenges with their, kind of the salary, the structure of how that's financially shakes out. There's such value in all types of pro sports franchises now that's the valuation of this team. We just saw the Timberwolves are kind of involved in the same sort of circumstances right now. Maybe not going to be sold, but maybe they're kind of in the process of that for a while. This could just be a pure and simple business decision where they're like, this is the time to sell.
Yeah, possibly. Forbes valuation of the Twins going into the 2024 season, I believe, was $1.45 million.
Yeah.
So 1.5 seems reasonable. Although I'm curious to see how much of a lack of long-term television contract situation can affect that evaluation because that affects revenue streams and profitability. But I'm not a business person. There's other people who are more skilled at that than I am. But yeah, that's about 3,000% raised from the $44 million that they eventually bought the team for. And I'm pretty sure Carl took out a loan to buy the team and paid himself back with interest. So I think it worked out on his end. But it's been quite a run. It's been quite a controversial run. The Pohlad family, and maybe, the other thing too, maybe they're tired of taking the PR hits. They have not been able to get out of their own way. When Carl was complaining about the Metrodome, getting a new stadium, he was going to donate money for the project. It ended up being a loan. Then there was a contraction. Then there was Don Beaver. There were so many things that just upset the fan base. And I think there was a lack of trust from that whole period there. And Joe Pohlad coming out at the end of the season saying that he made a business decision when, this fan base was fired up about where the team was headed, was just the latest in bad messaging sent out to the public. So I think all that needs to be included in the final evaluation of how this ownership period has gone for the Pohlads. It's crazy because I remember I had to interview Carl. God, when was this? 2000, okay. 2001.
Around contraction time, right?
I went down. Maybe it was it pre-contraction? It may have been pre-contraction. I'm thinking 99. And I was in his office down in the Marquette Bank building on the 30 whatever floor. And I was sitting in his office. He walks in. He goes, I heard you bought a new house. How come you didn't finance it through us? I'm like, how in the hell did he know that I bought a house? I'm like, how did he know this?
Right.
Here he's getting mad that I didn't finance it through his bank. It was just crazy. So that man was something else when it came to money and maximizing profits. And you have some. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling on here, but
no, that's good.
You have so many situations on where some people believe the team, they got to do the best for the fans, and they want to see their teams win before they pass away. I was covering the Royals when Ewan Kaufman pushed the payroll in his final years because he wanted to see the Royals do well, and it didn't work. Mike Ilitch did that in his last years with the Detroit Tigers, signing Miguel Cabrera to a ridiculous contract, and I am re-signing him. I think they'll sign him twice. As the Tigers went to a World Series, I want to say in 2005. And then most recently, yeah, I think so. Well, I could be wrong, 08 or something like that. And then Peter Seidler, the owner of the Padres, dearly wanted to see the Padres win before he passed away, wanted to win the title for the fan base. And he pushed the Padres payroll to gargantuan amounts here. But he died of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma 2 or 3 years ago, without that dream being realized. And since then, the Padres lost over $100 million in 2022. They lost over $50 million in 2023. And they shaved their payroll by $90 million. And they're still competitive. But it shows you that Seidler was not he was in a mode where I want to win at all costs. And the Pohlad family never showed that approach to their fan base. And I think it angered them.
Do you feel like as we went from Carl to Jim to Joe that the desire to be on the baseball side, to be kind of part of the baseball fandom segment of it, is more than just the business aspect of it, did that make it all the way through the generations? I guess, were they having as much joy owning the team right now, you think, than they did originally?
I don't think so. I think when Carl bought the team, he wanted to make sure it had a long-term future in this market, which was noble of him to do. And I think that Jim wanted to carry that on when Carl passed away. Joe perhaps maybe has a different view on things, And Joe, he was the one I really had high hopes for being a great owner because he was willing to do all the dirty work. He started working in game day operations. Then he worked in the business office. Then he worked in different avenues. Then when they had the radio station, he operated the radio station. He was willing to learn the business of baseball from the ground up. But I thought that was going to serve him well going forward. And maybe it has. Maybe the business of baseball has showed him that this is something we should not be involved with. So I think it's changed through the years. I think it's changed through the ownerships and the executive chairs.
A couple more things on this emergency bonus episode. What do you think are the short-term, medium-term implications for how this team is run? I mean, this sale probably won't, it's going to take maybe 6 months, which could be, right around the start of next season. I guess, how do you imagine this changes the approach? Anybody, at high level positions, things like that?
I think they'll move forward as like everything's normal, nothing is going on behind the scenes. I think it'll be business as usual there. They'll prepare for the 2025 season. I think the writing's on the wall in terms of how the roster's going to be put together, because they've said that the payroll's not going to go up or down. So you're going to see some players' contracts come off the books, like Max Kepler's and like Kyle Farmer's, but you're going to see other guys get raises. Pablo Lopez's contract goes up from $8 million to $21 million next year. There's going to be arbitration increases. So they're going to have to be creative in terms of finding quality players to try to strengthen the roster more than last year. And just like, today's the first day of the hockey season for the Wild. If they stay healthy, they look like a playoff team. If the Twins stay healthy, they look like a playoff team. And that's the one thing they got to be gambling on. And it's unfortunate you can't go out and buy health. You have to hope that guys are prepared and durable enough to get through the rigors of the season. Because when you have Carlos Correa and Buxton and Royce Lewis in the lineup consistently, you got a shot doing some damage. So I think they're just going to go forward business as usual. We won't see anything else. But it's been amazing because these last few years, when they hired Falvey and Thad Levine, they triggered a significant amount of spending on the infrastructure of that organization, building out the baseball department, building out the R&D department, building out the medical department. They've spent millions and millions of dollars building that area out, and they're not going to see it come to fruition.
Watch your dreams and savings grow with Royal Credit Union's 4.25% annual percentage yield 12-month certificate. Open now at any Royal office or online at rcu.org/certificate saver. Early withdrawal penalties could reduce earnings and principal. APY accurate as of 2/1/25. Insured by NCUA.
Final thing, I think fans would say ideal ownership would be limitless spending, go out and get everybody, but that's not sustainable in this market. Maybe shouldn't be sustainable in any market, given what you just said about what the Tigers tried to do, what the Padres tried to do, what the Royals tried to do at certain points when they spent above their means. That said, what to you is an ideal new owner? How should an ideal new owner run this team, whether it's similarly or different from how the Pohlads are running this team right now?
Well, if they run it differently from the Pohlads, then they're going to invest in they're going to approve a higher payroll and try to keep their good players and bring in more good players to make this team a threat. And I would imagine the new owner would be under, I want to say pressure, but there'd be some urgency here for him to make a splash, him or her or them, to make a splash and do something like that. In terms of, day-to-day operations, it'd probably just be, business as usual, just do what they're doing now. Maybe they'll tweak some things. Maybe they would do some things with the infrastructure that the Pohlads have not done. But I don't know what that is, because they've done a lot these last few years. I used to know everybody who worked at One Twins Way. I walk down the hallways and say, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. I don't know 60% of the people now. There's a bunch of young people walking around with different roles. I was like, who is this person? I don't know them anyway. That's how large the organization, the staff has gotten. So the new owner, I would imagine, come in and give the franchise everything it needs in order to win. I think that would be the goal of whichever new owner comes in.
Wild speculation. What are the odds that Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez end up buying the team?
I think there's zero chance they do. They've had trouble raising enough money to buy the Wolves. They've had deadlines extended. They're lucky.
They've got Bloomberg money now, though.
Well, I'd say they had to bring in Michael Bloomberg. And, they had to bring in Bloomberg, who could probably buy the team on his own without A-Rod and Lowry. So I don't know if Bloomberg wants to get involved in baseball as well. I don't know if I'm cool with that or not. I would like to see someone local buy the team, maybe like a Stanley Hubbard or someone like that. But, this will have worldwide interest, because baseball teams don't go for sale, go on the market very often. And this is a great opportunity to join the fraternity in a sport where, revenues continue to go up. So, but no, I can't see A-Rod and Lowry. They're fortunate that the NBA allowed this layaway plan to buy the Wolves that's gone haywire, and now it's in litigation and mediation. I don't know if baseball wants to put up with them in that regard.
No, that's true. We'll see. It's going to be a fascinating process to see how it plays out. Lavelle, thanks for jumping on with me. Appreciate the Twins, too, for breaking this news a half an hour before we were going to record, not a half an hour after, because you'll be back on with me on Friday's show as well. This will certainly be a subject in our daily delivery debate, but glad we got to do this first. Lavelle, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.